Hello there! Welcome to Emily vs. Art. This is how I became president of a Harry Potter club. Now, I know that many people have a very similar story to mine, where they found Harry Potter very young and it became a part of their world growing up. I was 5 or 6 when my parents first started reading it to me, and that just exploded into a huge, almost lifelong obsession, I would say. My mom and dad started reading the books to me chapter by chapter every night at bedtime. One of them would go read a picture book to my brother to get him to sleep. The other would stay with me and read through a full chapter. So I remember one night they were arguing over who was going to read me the chapter that night. Of course, in my mind, it's nicer to remember them fighting over who gets the opportunity to read me the book, but in reality, I'm sure that they were fighting over who had to spend a half hour reading to me that night instead of the 10 minutes for my brother. But as they were arguing, I picked up the book and just started reading. And so that kind of solved it for them. They no longer had to read to me every night. They just would give me the books and say, okay, it's bedtime, go read. Other times I would put on the audiobooks, and I mean, this was so long ago that they were on cassette tape. Of course, then we got the CDs as time went on. I went to, I believe, the 5th, 6th, and 7th book releases. I was too young before the 5th one. And for the first 2, the 5th and the 6th, I mostly just remember standing in line, getting the book, and then trying to read on the car ride home, and my mom trying to convince me that turning on the light in the car was illegal. For the 7th and final midnight release of the books, I wore a graduation robe from my mom's closet, a witch's hat that we had had since I was probably 4 years old. Just to give an example of the intensity of my obsession at that point, I had used a kitchen knife to carve my own wand from a tree in my backyard. I sanded it and varnished it, and it looked pretty cool, in my opinion. I still have it. I also read and wrote a lot of fan fiction. I won't be spending too much time today talking about that. That's its own story. Then, as I mentioned in a previous video, I went to boarding school, and I thought that founding a club would look pretty good on my resume, even something as silly as a Harry Potter club. If you look at it from a certain perspective, organizing events, charity fundraisers, from midnight viewings of the movies to food recipe exchanges, those would all be great application points, and I was clearly passionate about it. However, I had this idea that I was going to go to boarding school and become an entirely different person. I wouldn't have any of the social issues I had back in middle school. I seem to have not realized that becoming the president and founder of a Harry Potter club would make me look like a huge freaking nerd. I'm pretty sure I was the butt of quite a few jokes about that, but looking back, I think it was all worth it. I don't regret it at all. I made some amazing friends, and we had some pretty cool events. As some of these pictures show, we had t-shirt decorating contests where we would create shirts with our preferred house on it. We would wear them to the midnight showings of the movies. We would get our club advisor and some of our dorm parents to drive us to the movie theater about 10 minutes away on a school night. And this was pretty tough to get around because of boarding school, but it's some of my favorite memories. We watched the Harry Potter musical with Darren Criss back when he was in the University of Michigan. We even had pumpkin pasties at a club fair, which was actually just pumpkin pies with whipped cream, but people loved it, and it was cool. We attracted a lot of the younger students, actually, who had grown up with Harry Potter and hadn't been at the school long enough to realize that possibly that level of fandom wasn't exactly encouraged nor necessarily appreciated. However, everyone who ended up joining the club long term was very active, had a great time, and I am so happy that I got to experience that with them. Unfortunately, as I came towards senior year, I drifted out of the club. I had stopped reading fan fiction, and the movies were over, I think, my senior year, and Fantastic Beasts hadn't been announced yet. So to me, the world was closed. It was complete. I felt like any questions I had were answered either by the books or by fan fiction long ago. And what I mean by that is often the fan fictions I would read tackled questions that J.K. Rowling never did, and they came up with fantastically creative answers. And that's okay, because an author doesn't need to answer all the questions. I like to have my own personal views on the events that weren't included in the books. I kind of ignore J.K. Rowling on Twitter now, and I kind of like the Pottermore stuff when I see it shared. For example, the fact that wizards used to vanish their poop, that's incredible to me. I love that detail. I know some people are going to say, well, they had the bathrooms, and Salazar Slytherin built the Chamber of Secrets in the bathrooms, but if they didn't have bathrooms till the 1800s, how would that happen? They actually addressed that on Pottermore. They said that the bathrooms were a later addition. One of Salazar Slytherin's descendants, one of the Gaunts, actually built an entrance into the bathrooms to the chamber when the renovations were done. And that level of detail is amazing because I never would have thought of that. And if this is your career, like J.K. Rowling, those are the sorts of things that you do think of. Oftentimes the bigger questions like, what did Harry do after he graduated? What kind of careers did Lily and James have, or would they have had if Voldemort never came along? What if Harry and Draco were just a little bit attracted to each other? Things like that, I didn't need J.K. Rowling to explore for me. I had the internet. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my How I Became a Harry Potter Club President story. I hope that you enjoyed watching the Hermione fan art happening in the background. And I especially hope that you all got a really good laugh out of my dorky photos from high school. And I'm here to say that it's okay to admit to an old obsession. It's okay to admit that you read Destiel fanfiction, or that you carved a wand, or any of the other many things that I did, because I like to imagine that I'm a perfectly well-adjusted adult now, with a job and a husband and a home. I'm no longer embarrassed of who I was when I was younger. I wanted to share that with people because I'm hoping to inspire others to share their embarrassing stories so we can all have a good laugh together and move on. I hope we can all learn to laugh at ourselves a little bit more easily. I think that can be pretty important for a happy life. I don't want to sit here bemoaning my fan fiction and my embarrassing Harry Potter Club and all of that, because in the end, it was my first taste of world building and creativity and imagination, and how something so strange can bring together so many people in an amazing way. So again, thank you guys so much. I hope you check out my other videos on this channel, and have a great one.